mental capacity we have opened up for other things. The problem is we're filling it with, keeping up with the
Yeah, I was
Kardashians
going to say
or,
Jersey Shore. Yeah.
Donald Trump's, political rally or something to go scream and cheer. We should be, reading books. We should be learning more about the universe, being more creative, sculpting, painting, whatever. We should be doing more productive things than just filling, it's like we're getting all this free time, this great resource of time and mental power, mental freedom that we're being, it's like it's like imagine, 100 years ago, God, you spend hours and hours and hours doing laundry every week. Laundry was a big deal. A lot of work had to go into that. Now you throw it into a washing machine, forget about it for 45 minutes, come back, it's all done. But what do we do with that 45 minutes, We pop on the couch and we watch reality TV or something, it's just wasted. And the same with our brain, we're freeing up our brain power, our limited finite brain power, by not having to know everything we rely on, not having to know every detail about everything. We like GPS in the car, we can just program where you want to go. You don't have to study a map or stop and ask directions. You can get there fast, efficiently. Now, you're not using your brain as well as you once did, though. You're not challenging. So that's a bad thing. But why not use the free time to challenge your brain in an even greater way, learn a new language, do other things. That's the problem. We're not taking advantage of this freedom we're getting.
Well, and I have encountered many times, and I'm sure you have and listeners have, where you go to just a gas station or a store and you buy something. They have no capacity to be able to even make change in their head.
Yeah. The register just tells them what to hand you.
Yeah, and my best experience was I was in the state of Arkansas. It's right below Missouri, and I bought something for $3.34, and I handed them a 10, and they put in $10, and then they saw what the change was. It was $6.66, and they started freaking out.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, "Do you want to buy this piece of gum for 5 cents to change the total?" And I'm like, "No, I want you to hand me 666." And I thought it was so funny. When I got out my car, I sat there. I was tempted. I seriously was tempted to be a douche about it and go back inside and buy the same thing again, just to make them ring it up.
And tell them your name is Damien as you walk out the door.
That's right. Now, of course, the other book that my listeners are probably going to adore, not to mention, of course, all the ones that you've already mentioned, but 50 Simple Questions for every Christian. Do you happen to have any of those off the top of your head?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that book, this book is another one that just keeps on going. And what's interesting, just to give you an idea what it's about, it's not a gotcha book. It's not about, haha, I gotcha, Christians. Here's a question you can never answer. It's nothing like that at all. It's really polite, respectful. It's actually meant for Christians to read. It's not only for skeptics. I mean, it's good for skeptics and atheists and all, because it can kind of help them crystallize their ideas about this stuff. But I really, really wanted Christians to read it, and I've been successful with that. That's amazing. I've gotten so many comments from Christians who read it, and it's really, really encouraging, because I kind of sold the book on the idea that, hey, don't worry, I'm not trying to deconvert you or anything. I want you to understand why everyone on earth isn't a Christian. Like, what's wrong? What's the problem? You've got this great thing going here, this great story. Why isn't everybody buying it? The majority of people on earth are not Christian. What's wrong? I say, here's the problem. Here, when you say this is what we think. When you claim this is what we question. And so the simple questions are just things like, right off the bat, does Christianity make sense? I think that's the first chapter. And then there's other things like, does prayer work? And the question of, does Christianity make sense? It simply lays out the very, very most basic claim of Christianity, that this one God became a human and walked among us here on earth. And then, because he loved us so much, he had to be tortured and killed so that we could be forgiven for being such horrible things that the God created. And so this is the way we were saved from the punishment the eternal torture and damnation of this God who loves us and created us as we are. So he had, in the human form, he had to be brutally killed in this human sacrifice event. And I just think like, wow, so I analyze that in a very simple way and say, here's the problem. You tell that story, you think it's a beautiful story and it's so wonderful that he loves us so much. And I said, well, you know what? Somebody standing on the outside, just sensible person, not trying to be mean or anything like that. You say, well, why didn't he just forgive us then? Or why did he make us this way if he knew how we were going to turn out to be such horrible creations? Why didn't he tweak the blueprints a bit or something in the first place? Or why couldn't he just say, you're pardoned? Let's try to do better, guys. Why this whole weird human sacrifice thing? It's barbaric. It's disgusting. And a typical outsider to the religion says, well, was it really a sacrifice? I mean, is it really that big a deal? Because he's God, Jesus is God, and Jesus is dying on the cross, and then he goes right back up to heaven to be with himself again, or to be up in heaven as God again, or what's the big sacrifice? A firefighter who rushes into a burning building and dies trying to save a baby. He doesn't really know that he's going to heaven. I mean, what if he's an atheist? Atheist soldiers give their lives for their comrades. Isn't that an even greater sacrifice that just some lowly human would sacrifice his life? A police officer, a firefighter. I mean, think about that. They're not even on the fast track to heaven as soon as it's over. I mean, that's, to me, seems like a much greater sacrifice. So these are the kind of things I try to explain in a very gentle, sweet way to Christians. In prayer, like if prayer works, then why are people always praying all the time for things that don't happen, And I give the example of millions of babies under the age of 5 die every year in the developing world. Every year, millions and millions and millions. It's like a double Holocaust every year of babies die from malnutrition and diseases that could have been prevented with simple vaccines or antibiotics. These babies die. And I try to make it more real, and I say, imagine now, these babies aren't dying in some quick, painless way. They're dying slowly in agony, and they're being held, in most cases, by a loving mother who's embracing that child and crying, pleading for that child to live. And in almost, in virtually all cases, praying, like passionately praying. Just imagine, and within all religions too, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, praying with all their might that child might be, saved and live. And yet they die by the millions. I mean, I would submit each one of these incidents as a case of prayer not working. Now, the quick response I get to that is, well, excuse me. Well, how do you know God didn't answer the prayer by taking the child away to heaven where the child will be in comfort and all that? Okay, maybe, but that's a heck of a way to do it because those children suffer, in many cases for weeks, months. They slowly die in pain. The mother anguishes, prays. I mean, that's just one case of many. But I point out in this book over and over and over different situations that simply do not make sense, don't hold up to justification. And this explains, why so many of us, so many others just don't get it and aren't convinced. It doesn't mean we hate Christians, doesn't mean we're rebelling again, and I point out all the ridiculous reasons that, non-believers always hear. Christians are forever saying, you really believe, you're just too arrogant. You want to be your own God, or you really believe, but you want to be immoral and run around, having sex and doing drugs. So you're rebelling against God, pretending he's not there, but he is deep down. And these kind of, just these nonsense accusations. And I try to explain why those things don't make sense. And I go on and on. But it's been a very popular book, and it makes me really happy that it's not only been popular with skeptics and non-believers, but with Christians. I've gotten a few that were upset, a few people that were kind of, miffed about the whole thing, but most of them said, the typical response I get from a Christian is, hey, this book made me think, and I think I understand atheists a lot better now. And so that's good. I feel great. Mission accomplished.
Well, that is fantastic. Now, Guy, where can people reach you? Facebook, Twitter, all those things.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Just search Guy P. Harrison. You'll find me. Twitter, Harrison Author. And I've got my own website, guypharrison.com.
I'm seeing a pattern
and
here.
You can just do a search on Amazon, Guy P. Harrison. I have an author page there with all my books, a little bio, a little description of the books, all that stuff right there. And, happy to say, really happy to say, as a lover of libraries, almost all my books are in libraries, like all across America. So, even if you don't want to fork up the few bucks to buy the book, man, please do not let that stop you. It's all about what's in the books, really. It really, really is. I would be so happy if just go to your public library, get a free copy, and read it. Read any of them or all of them, and tell your friends about it. Because the whole point of these 6 books I've written so far, honestly, the motivation there, it ain't fame and glory. Believe me, it's all about me caring about the world. I've seen so much misery and waste and just disappointing loss in America and around the world that traces right back to the absence of good critical thinking, the lack of skepticism, lack of science appreciation. We could do so much better as a species. We really could if we would just wake up, grow up, and think. We could do so much better. We could do a better job of taking care of one another. We could do a much, much better job of, raising our children and giving them better lives. I mean, you don't have to be a millionaire to be an extreme success. You've got the most powerful thinking machine that we've ever known. You've got one in your skull right now. Whoever you are, all you've got to do is use it well, and you can have a much better life. You really, really can. It's true. I sound like a crazy evangelist here, but I'm telling you, I'm telling you, the human brain, for all the problems the human brain causes us, as crazy as it is, it's also the source of our, salvation. Pardon the word, Phil. The human brain can figure anything out. It can even figure out itself. So you trust in that brain, and you take it as far as it'll carry you, and you'll do better than you will otherwise. As far as howling at the moon and calling psychics and
I'll say
talking to
trust but verify.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
what science is. Science is that method to double check what we think we know.
Yeah, and absolutely. And anybody who's been listening, to this so far, and I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Science is not a religion. Scientists are not priests that are perfect, not at all. Science is just it's a tool. It's a tool out in the woodshed. Go get it. You're a human. Go get it. Science is for all of us. It doesn't belong only to scientists. And as long as people are doing science, there will be many, many, many mistakes in science. That's guaranteed. But it's the best thing we have, the best way we have to figure out what's real, what's true. So use it. Rely on that scientific method, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in life.
Excellent. Well, Guy, thank you so much for being on the Phil Ferguson Show. It's been a genuine pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me, man. And keep up the good work, okay? There's a lot, let me tell you, there's a lot of need for rational thinking within, financial matters, family, finances, business investments, all these kind of things. So you're doing a good thing by pushing that angle. So keep doing that.
Well, you're so sweet. And again, thank you for being on the show, and we'll talk to you again.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show on Secular Media Network.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview with Guy P. Harrison, and now you can go to Amazon or your favorite physical bookstore, if they still exist, and get yourself a book or two. I'm sure they're all available on Kindle as well, or maybe even audiobooks, which is my favorite, because when I'm driving, I can have someone read to me, which reminds me, I've got to go shop for a new audiobook, because tomorrow I've got a 6-hour drive to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to, I think it's called NanoCon, NANOCON, in Nashville, Tennessee. In case you're not listening to the show the day or two it comes out, that's going to be on March 5th. So a lot of you will listen to this after March 5th of 2016, and you're just going to have realize that you missed it. A couple things that are coming up that I do know about and or will be at. in April, I'm getting to it here. April 2nd is Logicon in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So do a little Google search on that, and you can come join me at LogicCon. And later in